to see this guy tonight. So the last time he was here, we had a pretty similar crowd. He seems to draw a crowd. He's got quite the reputation. If you don't know who Bobby Boyle is, he's I call him the swordfish savant. He is like last time he was like speaking a different language when he was up here talking about some of the different techniques. He covered the spectrum the last time, daytime and nighttime. Even touched on trolling and stuff. Skip Smith was here with him that night. But we wanted to really dial down on daytime fishing this go round. And Bobby, if you haven't been to his website, by the way, check out his website. You can sign on his crew. He has a big following where you can get a lot of valuable information. So I'm assuming there's a lot of people in the room tonight that are into this daytime and stuff. One of those most valuable resources you can have is his website and building a relationship with him and capturing information from there. He is a really talented artist. I had a couple people tell me he's got swordfish bills of theirs down there. He does fantastic artwork on these bills, preserving them and making them works of art. And he's really focused on hand cranking now. So last time he was here, we talked a lot about the electrics and stuff. But this hand cranking stuff with a lot of the new technology and rods and reels and lines and stuff and some of his techniques, you can actually hand crank these big beasts from the bottom. And so go down to his shop, RJ Boyle Studio down there. It's like a combination tackle shop, candy store, art gallery. It's a really cool place. But we're really fortunate to get him, obviously, with a crowd like tonight. You can kind of get the gist of just how well respected he is in the industry. So please welcome RJ Boyle.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Everybody hear me good? You'll be tired of listening here shortly. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me. It's just my second time here. It's like so nostalgic just being in this room, you know. And I thank everybody for coming to listen and spend their time, whether you want to learn something, whatever you want to get out of this thing tonight. But I thank you for having me. I really do. And it's so beautiful that you can fill a room with people who have this passion for fishing like I have. We are filming tonight. Jeff Aderman, he's got a company called AA Video. He does all of our filming on the Crew platform. We travel around the world with fishing guys, and it's pretty cool. So if you're not on it, I would suggest it. It's very good. I've learned a ton from a lot of the captains and stuff that I've fished with. And if you can just pick up one thing or two things, even tonight, we're going to visit. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. And I don't write anything down, okay? I feel like every time I try to organize myself, it doesn't come out right, so I just kind of wing it. And I want to go in a couple directions tonight. We can talk about sword fishing. I know there's a questionnaire going around. So if that could come up at some point, and we'll get to oh, it's here? Okay, so we got questions. So one thing really, okay, swordfish has changed my life. It's changed my life. So I've always fished. I grew up fishing. For people who don't know me, don't know the story behind it, I'd always fished. My brother was a mate on the Helen S. drift boat. So, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. I used to, in the summertime, fish 3 trips on a drift boat with my brother. We'd do the morning, afternoon, night trip. And so, really, for me, I remember being young and looking at these mates and stuff. And back in the day, a lot of times, with the fishing was a focus, and it's a focus here in Palm Beach, more so kind of than it is down where we are, but it was really a way of life. When you came into the dock in the afternoons back then, there was 50 to 150 people waiting to buy fish. They were dressed up from work. It was a different program. It was a different time. And, the mates wore, I'll never forget Dan Garnsey. If you showed up, or Bud O'Brien, who ran that drift boat operation, if you showed up as a mate and your shirt wasn't pressed and your Navy pants weren't pressed, you were hitting the trail, you were out. They'd send you home. So fishing was very serious, and when I started, it was like really serious. And I remember just looking up to the mates, Al Fields on the Bolo, Johnny Mumford. That was the first time I'd ever been on a charter boat, was with Al Fields, who's from, he's from Ocean City, but spends a lot of time here. So looking at my brother and like being in awe of fishing guys was always something that I was always looking up to my brother like, man, someday I could be the mate on a drift boat. Think about that. So if you think about that for a second, you got how times have kind of changed a little bit. I was having a discussion today with Tyler Przinsky. He was a mate on the Big O. He's on a different boat now. And some of the guys that fish, I just love to talk to them because they're so much better at what they do than I am. But we were saying, but he says to me, I think I'm gonna freelance on another boat, and freelance, and you can really make a living, good living as a freelance mate now, because there's nobody out there. And we started talking about millennials, and we talked about kids growing up in fishing today. Like really? I mean, back in the day, if I showed up with a wrinkled shirt, there was another guy waiting to fill my spot. That's kind of how it was, or it was the boat wash guy that now runs the Bolo or the whatever boat. There was always a guy waiting to take your job. That's not happening anymore. It's always, it's a huge concern. I mean, kids today are so different when you look at them. Now, they're the hardcore kids that fish, yes. But if you looked at fishing, we need to encourage kids to be fishing. Stay off the phone, stay off Facebook, take them fishing. The other thing, when you think about it, and we're going to go in a lot of different directions, but you looked at I'm in the tackle business, right? I sell a lot of tackle. But if you looked at 2008 and a half and you looked at what we sold when fuel went to $5 a gallon, okay, it changed everything. So nobody came in, nobody did long trips. Everybody, if you went to the DR, you didn't punch it, you were going 12 knots. So when that all changed, a lot of things happened as well. He couldn't afford the boat anymore, so that was the first thing to go. So the kids that they were bringing up didn't go fishing anymore for a 3 or 4 year period. So there was that gap that we lost fishing, kind of. If you're really in it, you saw the numbers go from this to this. Now, all of a sudden, people are buying boats. We had the boat show. People are buying it. People are fishing again. The excitement is coming back. We can't lose sight of the kids. And Tom's right. These things that we're doing to promote fishing are huge for the next generation. I was never really a tagging guy. With a lot of the stuff that we're doing, I'm completely into tagging. I want to save the fish. To me, I've caught enough swordfish. I love it. If life was over for me tomorrow, I'm happy with my life. I'm content. Okay, I'm content. I have a good family. I'm doing what I'm trying to do on a daily basis. And for our children, that's who's coming. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I got one that is actually riding for the national championship in South Carolina this weekend. Won the national champions last year as a jumper. My other daughter, in college, doing great. I moved my family to Tennessee 8 years ago. So I fly back and forth. Wanted a change of life, change of pace. My wife and I, my wife's my high school girlfriend. We went our own ways through college. When that was over, we got married and stayed down here. We wanted a little bit more, something different, so most people don't do that. I fly back and forth. We have a house, we have a farm, we do our thing. But I'll tell you the truth, it's been so great. I spend more time, believe it or not, even if I'm here for 10 days, if I go up there for 5, I spend more time with my wife now than I ever did when I was here. Going to work at 6:30, coming home at 6:30, eating dinner and hanging out for an hour. Okay, so for me, just remember the focus. We are so lucky to do what we're doing. Think about where we're at. Younger guys, older guys, women in this room, we are so blessed to do what we're doing, okay? And we are, at times can have a very skewed vision of the way things really are in the world. And you have to remember that. And your purpose here, whatever that might be, whether you work at Starbucks or you have a $10 billion business, we're going to talk a little at the end about your fishing life. And what is it? I want to go a little deeper. Sword fishing, okay, we're going to talk about it at the end when you leave here tonight. Okay, I want Hopefully you'll learn one thing about sword fishing, so it was worth your time. 2, I want you to think about the rest of your life. I want you to think about your family and what you're doing as a boater. Are you a charter boat captain, or are you a guy who just wants to go up and down the intercoastal once in a while? And fishing is not that serious for you. So, we're going to talk about our family, our business. As men in the room or women in the room that have businesses, we're structured. I'm working off a daily planner. I got to do this by 10. I got to do this by every 15 minutes is calculated. Most people, 99% of people, don't do that in fishing. But if you're going to spend as much time fishing or wanting to go fishing, or the time you have that's valuable in fishing, you should be doing that. And fishing, again, for me, it's serious. It's always been serious. I've always wanted to catch. Going out, driving around, not catching anything, for me, is not that fun. I don't get, it's beautiful out here. I appreciated it the first minute I crossed the inlet. Looked at the sun coming up, that euphoric butterflies. I still get butterflies going fishing. It's so exciting. I fish about 100 days a year. Okay? Sometimes a little more, sometimes a hair less, but I have goals in it. We're going to talk about that at the end. As far as sword fishing, specific daytime sword fishing, been around for 10 years. Okay? Things have changed since the beginning. Honestly, how many of the people in the room have caught a daytime swordfish? Okay. Nighttime swordfish? Okay, so we're more nighttime, so we're all transitioning in this day thing. I will tell you this. On any given day, can you go out there, can a guy who doesn't know that much, checked out YouTube videos, go out there and catch a swordfish in the daytime? Yes. But the current better be light. You better drop it right on his head. Where's the guy who caught the 500 pounder? The first drop? Okay. So he calls me up, asks me a bunch of questions about technique, goes online, watches some films, and then sends me a picture of a 500 pounder the next day. I told him to sell all his gear, find another hobby, do something else. Okay? Okay, because I've been doing it for 10 years. I've caught 8 fish over 500, 2 at 700. But when you look at it, the average size of the fish is 80 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever it might be. But realistically, is anybody struggling catching a swordfish in the daytime in here? Anybody struggling? Really, like you're going out and not getting bites or not catching them, or hooking them and not catching them? Okay. Daytime sword fishing is rather technical. So for me to explain it to you, okay, it's very difficult because there's so many avenues, and for me not to be standing on your boat, looking at exactly what you're looking at, for me to give you an answer is very difficult, okay? What I can say is this. We do charters. People come on the boat, everybody's huddled around the rod, everybody's watching the rod tip. They've done some research, they've figured it out, they want to get better at sword fishing. On the phone, we're fishing guys, we're fishing guys. Okay. What does that mean? Because you're a fishing guy and you fish, does that mean that you can stare at a rod tip for 10 hours? It is the hardest thing to do. Nobody can stare at a rod tip for 10 hours, except a few. So 9 out of 10 people this last night, if we go sword fishing today and you charter us, I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 times the person will never see the first bite. They're expecting something more, even if they went online or Facebook or whatever and saw, but put them on the boat, sit them in a chair and go, okay, study the rod, watch the nuances of the rod, watch how it, with the sea, we got a 2-foot sea, every couple seconds, just stare at the rod tip. And what you're going to see is a snapper bite, right? You're looking for this snapper bite, which is this, something different about the rod. And they're like, oh, the rod just doesn't bend over. No, can it? Yes. Does it? No, that's not naturally how a swordfish, he's gonna tap the rod. And you're probably gonna miss it. And if you miss it the first time, I will tell you this, you miss this, 50% chances of you catching the fish go down. 50%. If If you don't see the first time, and that's because you're not going to move the bait to give yourself a chance to be able to hook the fish correctly. Can we hook the fish? Yes. Can we put him in the boat or release him? That's different. So most people have about 15 to 20 minutes. They'll stare at that rod 15 or 20 minutes and then they go for a sandwich. And it's our job to watch it, but it's interesting. Even once in a while you'll get somebody who's very into it and they won't take their eyes off it and they're watching it, but they still never see it. So understand it's very difficult at times to see an average bite. The driving in sword fishing, it is very difficult. It's difficult 75% of the time, especially here. If you can swordfish here, you can go anywhere in the world and catch swordfish. This is the most difficult place to do it. And average of 3.5 knots, I'm going backwards in the current, I'm pointing south, but I'm really trolling backwards with the rod out, okay? In 1,650 feet, but I have 2,500 feet of line out because there's 3.5 knots of tide, but now the guy driving can't keep the correct angle, so I'm 500 feet off the bottom. I'm nowhere in the bite zone, and it's going to be a long day. So once I add wind and current into the ingredient, the beginner's out. It's a luck pot. What I would suggest for you, doesn't have to be me. There's guys up here bogged in. A lot of the guys that sail Fish Marina that do trips that are very good at sword fishing. You need to go on a boat with somebody that knows how to do it. Now, there's always that guy that says, I just want to do it on my own. Good luck. Open your wallet. You're going to spend a lot on lead, gear, and all that. If I decide I want to go striper fishing, I'm not going out to go striper fishing. I'm going to find out the best striper fisherman in the room. I'm going to hire you for the day, and I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to look at every single thing you do. I'm going to study what you do. I'm going to watch your eyes. I'm going to watch your body language. I'm going to watch everything. I'm going to look at your baits, bait box. Is he trying to hide something from me? Do I have something in my pocket to get his numbers? That's all real stuff, guys. That's what people do on our boat. You know, all of a sudden they're filming the numbers and all this stuff, and we leave them up. You know, at the end, doesn't matter. Ronnie Chapman said it best one time, and it was awesome. He's doing a wahoo seminar, great wahoo fisherman. He said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you when to go fishing. I'm going to give you the lures to go. We're going to go side by side. I'm going to tell you when they're going to bite, and I'm going to tell you exactly where they are, and then I'm going to go out and clean your clock. Because that's what he does. Okay? That's what he does every single day. You take guys in the room that fish every day, do they have an advantage? Yes. Take advantage of the advantage. Go onto those boats. Charter a boat. Sword fishing is expensive. Okay? It's expensive. The line, the leads, the baits, this, $5,000. This is the newest reel. No one's seen this yet. This is LP. How many have LPs in here? Okay. This is now adjustable speed LP. Before it had a high and low speed. Now it's got super speed and extremely low. Tim at LP said, hey man, take this reel out. I was the first one 10 years ago to use the LP deep drop, and can you tell me what you think? Now I'm thinking, I'm getting excited about the high speed. When we hooked the fish, I was so excited about the low speed. This new reel, game changer. I was telling Richard, a big time sword fisherman, this right here, okay, for guys who don't want to hand crank, is a great reel, and it's the low speed, because when you hook a fish and you hook a swordfish, most people's problem is that they want the rod jacked over. You're pulling the hooks. Too much drag. You're going to hook the fish at 25 to 30 pounds. When the rod starts to load, that's a specific number. 25 to 30 pounds. Once I've hooked a swordfish, I've done everything I can basically do until that fish comes near the boat. I'm done. So the biggest thing for me, once we hook them, is to gain line and not pull on them. So with this, it's like super slow. And we're trying to make the fish swim up, so we don't have to pull on them. And in order to do that, we drive harder towards the fish, so the lead goes below the fish, so the fish comes up. And when you change the angle, you drive towards the fish on a swordfish trying to make the rod go slack, the lead drops below the fish and the fish swims up. That's the thought process. My ideal situation is to look at my rod and there's no bend in it. Most people, man, you gotta get tight, dude. The rod's, no. If you've put 25 to 30 pounds on them, you're done. That's it. And he's either usually on or gone. Now, big fish, let's say the rod loads and you pull them off. Big fish, they're not really concerned with line and all that stuff. They'll come right back. But most people's problem in daytime sword fishing is that they never hook the fish properly. Because I can say 25 pounds to you. You go like this, okay, 25 pounds. Let me grab the line and pull on the rod. Okay, wow, that's a lot of heat. Well, really you got the wrong rod and you just put 9 pounds on them. Everybody judges drag by rod bend. That's the nature of us as humans. Okay, we're not going to take the time because I got to go do other things. You got to scale your reels. You got to know what it is. If it's an LP, you got to have the setting at a certain spot where you're testing. If you're not doing that, if you're missing one ingredient, you're trying to hook a fish with 12 to 15 pounds, you're not doing anything. You got a 10 or 12 pound lead out there. You're hooking the lead. You're not doing anything. So all of those things, and you say you're struggling because it's a daily thing for me, guys are coming in saying, dude, I can't do it. Bring your rod in. Let me look at your rod. Let me see, pull on it. They're never putting enough drag on it. You gotta have the right rod. You gotta have the right setup to do that. And you gotta know, if I fish today and I pull my scale and I scale my second mark at 20 pounds, and you go home, and you're washing your rods and you're washing your boat off and I always say, lay the rod on the spool side down and I let you do it. Then I go to keep cleaning the boat. But in the process, you go like this. You're lifting it and I just went like that, right? Well, you go out tomorrow because it's beautiful. It's flat calm out. And I sit there and I go, wait a minute. Hold on. You have to do it every day you fish. You have to pull drags. When I was a mate, traveling the world. I was a mate on the concrete machine, the black gold, fished for Al Fields on several boats. We pulled drags every single day. That was part of being a mate. It's part of what you do to make sure that you're prepared. So all those little things are crucial. The driving, guys, one thing I can tell you, you can have a guy who knows how to drive a boat. If he doesn't understand the concept of what you're doing, because I hear this a lot. Well, we're going sword fishing, but this guy's like a boat guy. He knows how to drive the boat. I know how to work the reel, and if I try to explain how to drive to the guy, he doesn't get the concept. You got to understand the concept. You have to understand what going backwards means, even though you're pointing forward. So those technical things. Now, the worst thing with the driver, there's two things. One, most people don't have the same guy all the time, or girl. Honey, you drive the boat. Okay, get a partner that you fish with that can drive the boat. That's what you do. I work the reel, you drive the boat. Stay on this angle. The angle of the line is hugely important because we're fighting that current. You gotta have somebody that can drive. It's huge. You following me yet? You good? Yeah. Okay. So, before we get into hand cranking, my experience, huge amount of experience, is with the electric because of the current. The only reason we were using electrics is because when I was the first one out here, Nick was fishing down there, I was fishing off of Hillsborough. And we had no clue. I had no clue. I had fished 19 times, got bites every single time, never caught anything. Hook them for a second, come off. The learning curve was so huge. In order to be able for me to figure it out, I had to write everything down, okay? The shape of the lead. Is it a cannonball lead or is it a stick lead? A cannonball lead pulls twice as hard on a rod than a stick lead does. Okay, it's a different dynamic. Time. How long does it take to get the line up? 3.5 knot tide with 12 pounds of lead and 3.2 knot, 3 point something knots. Write it down. Write it down, write it down. Okay, well, I started with a 130-pound braid. I had 4,000 feet of line. I couldn't even fish. That's when we started, though. Who's going out there with 130 is the diameter of 20-pound, or whatever it might be. So it was the graduation down based on the fact that I had too much line out. So all of those things, without knowing where you were to let line out or be effective, we had to have a counter. It wasn't, if you wanted to get better at something, you couldn't just go out there and go, "Yeah, that was great today, man. We caught one finally." It was, I spent a lot of money and a lot of time going, and I was frustrated, and I needed to figure it out, so we had to write every single thing down about what we were doing. Taking it to the next step. Okay, well, we figured out we got down and we didn't get tangled. Okay, well, we had 4 bites that didn't hook them, but they were between 2 and 3 o'clock. What the heck happened to 2 or 3 o'clock? Well, that was when the moon popped the horizon. That's when the moon set on the horizon. Okay, so let me write that down. Let's go, let's audit the calendar. Let's look at the time of the year. Let's look at cycles. So understand all of this information, you start to accumulate all that, you write all that down, and you're trying to kind of think you know something, right? And you're learning some things, but realistically, after 10 years now, a lot of that work has been done for you. That's why I suggest most guys can go out and buy this wind on, have the reel set up, have a buoy rod, get it all. You can go buy that. Now you got to go do it. So you took out most of it, and a lot of that information is out there for you. Now, when you go out, okay, and if you're serious about sword fishing, specific to your area, maybe here. In our crew platform, we send out a fish report sheet. On that sheet, it talks about everything. Take in everything from one trip. If I go today, I'm going sword fishing today. Before I leave, I know where I'm going. I don't go out and go, well, we're in 1650, and that's what he said in the video, to go 1650, so we're going to put him out, and I think this is good. No. We're going to go out, the night before, we're going to go on the boat, we're going to talk to people that do it, if you have any friends, that swordfish, and or you're going to look at your bottom machine and you're going to go, okay, based on what I've heard, what I know, what I watched, I'm going to fish this spot, and this spot. I'm going to fish 3 spots based on what the bottom looks like. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fish this spot for 1 hour. Then I'm going to fish that spot for 1 hour, this spot for 1 hour. Then I'm going to go back to the first spot for 1 hour, 1 hour. Now I'm going to go 6 hours today. So my goal, my plan, okay, because we're plan guys, we got to plan our day. I'm going to make 6 drops. It's going to be 6 hours. We're going to know that the moon comes up because I wrote it down the night before. The moon comes up at 2 o'clock. Well, if you got to be at the airport at 2:30, are you going to miss a good window? Yes. Yes, you are. If they're not really feeding that day, do you not go? No. But you know that that's the best time to get a swordfish bite. When the moon cracks the horizon in the daytime, that's number 1. Number 2, about the moon, which is huge. If the moon's up in the sky in the daytime, that is your best time to catch a swordfish. Moon up in the day, best time. Setting, best time. Straight under you, best time. 2 days ago, I fished on a Spencer boat with guys. Guys brought the boat down from Jupiter, stayed overnight at Pier 66, came down, picked me up at Lighthouse Point Marina. We went out fishing. First drop, we catch a 130, 140 pound swordfish. They'd been sword fishing a bunch, lost them all. Watched us fight him and went, that's it, was the drag. We were putting too much drag on him. Okay, we can go in now. It's like 12:30. I'm thinking, wait a minute, it's 12:30. I mean, we were getting ready to bite. Yeah, I think he had some stuff to do. He said, do me a favor. There was a front line just before this northeast blow. There's a cloud front. It was beautiful in the morning, but here comes the clouds. You can see the clouds. They're coming from the northeast. The forecast is predicted to blow 20 to 25. It's blowing 5, but I can see the clouds and they're coming. Give me 5 minutes. I said, you see the cloud line? We're going to get bit in 5 minutes or less. 2 minutes later, we caught the second one. How do you know that? I mean, really, how can you? And they're looking at me like how do you know that? Well, At night, we fished for 16, 17 years at night. We spent 3 to 4 nights a week offshore. We've been daytiming for 10 years. When you have a spike in the weather and it's going to change, they're going to bite. What's crazy about it is there were 6 boats fishing a 4-mile stretch. We caught a fish. Those guys had a couple bites or whatever. All the boats were hooked up at the same time within 30 seconds. Every single boat. What does that tell you? Think about that for a second. To me, what does that tell you? First thing that I think about, how many fish look at the bait and don't eat it? If you're a 1/10 of a mile from me and you're 4 miles and this guy's 8 miles, how many fish are there? Think about when the bite's going off up here. I talk to Nick Stancic almost every day. Compare notes, we talk. He's getting bit every drop. About a month ago, the fishing was the best it's ever been since we started daytime sword fishing. The best. One day we caught 9. We had 2 doubles. It was, you didn't wait more than 5 minutes for a bite. But he's getting bit, and he's getting bit, and she's getting bit, and Nick's getting bit, and you guys up here. So what are we talking about fishery-wise? Okay, fishery-wise, there are tons of swordfish. Okay, it's really, really good right now. Really good. Now, okay, that doesn't mean tomorrow that we all go out and don't catch anything. Okay? How many fish swim up to your snook and a light? If they're not eating, they're not eating. Tarpon, if they're not eating, swordfish is no different. Can you do things to entice a bite when they're not eating? More of a reaction bite, not more of an eating bite. Okay? There's times when they're feeding and they're eating. There's times when it's a cat with a ball. Okay? He has no intent on ever eating your bait. There's times when they're not biting, and then here comes the front. Hold on. It's coming. Nighttime sword fishing, I'll never forget. We had a southeast wind. We had 3 balloons out, 2 rod tips. We're getting pushed. All of a sudden, here comes the line. Wind switched. The balloon starts switching sides. Corey, one of my buddies, Corey, is 1/10 outside me. Said, I'm winding up to go home. I said, all right, I'm going to give it 5 minutes. He calls me back a minute later and says, dude, I got a triple on. Soon as that wind hit his boat, he's got a triple on. We hooked 5. We had 5 on at one time. Think about that. So, you know, in the years of talking to longliners and guys that do this for a living, and you really get into it, like we accumulate this information, and then you try to dissect it and come up with something that works. Is there rhyme or reason to things? Yes, 100%. But if you're that guy that's not going to give that or really study your game, can you get lucky? Yes. Okay? Are you going to be great at it? No. How many people in this room fish more than 20 full days a year? 40 days a year. A lot in here. 100. So there's fishermen in this room. 200? Right. So really, back to the swordfish thing, when you think about it, here's what drives me absolutely nuts. We're out there all the time. We go through this 3-4 week span where you're lucky to get a bite. Yeah, we caught all the breeders. Man, you guys are really putting a hurting on them with the deep drop thing. Yeah, you know, these things are almost extinct. Educationally, that is real. I've been selling swordfish bills at the Palm Beach Boat Show, at the Lauderdale Boat, where people go, I can't even believe you would do that. And I'm like, you try to educate that person real quick. That ain't happening. You're a killer. You're disgusting. Okay. Understand. here now, the cycle of things with an HMS species like a swordfish, this year will be great. Next year's going to suck. They're going to be somewhere else. Or they're not. It may be another good year. Or next year it's the year of the big fish. Bahamas Championship. One year we fished the Bahamas Billfish Championship. There was like 6 fish over 700 caught, several over 1,000 lost. It was the cycle that actually worked its way through that spot at that time of the year. Just so happened that you were there. So my thing, really, when I think about people who make comments like that, uneducated comments, and other people listen to it, it's like, it drives me absolutely nuts. Okay? You want to talk about cycles of fish, go to a fish market. This year he's buying dolphin from here. Next year he's buying dolphin from here. He's buying kings from here this year, but we don't even have kings. There's no dolphin offshore here, but next year it's the cycle, okay? Now here's what you throw into the mix, right? How many have center consoles in here? Okay, we have a lot of center consoles. And I said this to John B., the guy I fish with. The fishing was off the chain the other day. We're catching doubles, we're catching swords, everybody's tight. For a 2-week span, and it's winter time. March is a rough month, usually. So, let's say 2 weeks prior to that 2 weeks, we caught nothing. It was slow. Then you had this huge ball of fish moved in, bait moved in. You want to learn about a swordfish, tag bait. So all this bait moved in, so the swordfish moved in, and now we got them here, but it was flat. Well, what if it was rough? What if it was rough? Nobody's fishing. So now those fish move on, they pass Palm Beach, they keep going, they're off of South Carolina. Well, there are not very many people fishing off of South Carolina. So we're still going to go, man, the fishing sucks. You guys are really hurting the population. Based on time, weather, and effort. And realistically, guys, I don't know if people in this room spend a lot of time offshore. There's nobody fishing for swordfish here. There's nobody swordfishing. I'm out there Monday through Friday. I'm like, dude, can you believe the amount of money that is 16 miles that way, the amount of boats we go by in the inlet, and there's not one boat here, and it's flat calm. Nobody's fishing for swordfish. Nobody. There's no pressure. And with a rod and reel in our little strip of water that we all think the fish flow in, we're doing nothing to the population of swordfish. You're not doing that with a rod or 2 rods. Ain't happening. It's not happening. So on the educational side, that's real talk based on years of experience, years of cycle, watching things, listening to people call you a killer. That's all real information that I've received. Here's an interesting one. You mentioned set tags here in the beginning. So there's been 8 tags put out on swordfish, satellite tags. 8. That's it, 8. So these tags are 120-day tags. So you put the tag in the swordfish, he swims around for 120 days, thing pops up, and it's read by the satellite, and where did this fish go? So we did 8, right? So I really want to start doing this satellite tag, and so I start calling around to get the best deal on a satellite tag. Well, the IGFA can't provide it right now because their sat tags aren't working correctly. So there's another company out of the Northeast that does 2 different types. I talked to a guy out of Texas A&M that is willing to do a bunch of stuff. So we're going to do these satellite tags. And it gets me thinking back to the first satellite tags we ever did, out here. So I'm out with Skip Smith. He's on a boat next to me. We're fishing. We had caught a big sword. Sword's in the boat. We're happy. Here comes little Merritt boat. Skip's on the boat. Hey, RJ, you out there? I said, yeah, man, what's up? He says, I got the guys from NOAA on here. We got a couple satellite tags. You interested? 100%. He said, all right, great. He sets up about 1/10 of a mile outside me. We hook a swordfish. 2 minutes later, call him up. Skip, we got him on here. How big is he? I said, it's a half a mile away. I don't know how big he is. Yeah, he said, you're going to put a tag in it? I said, if it's 500, we'll put a tag in it. If it's 50, we'll put a tag. Come over and get the guys on the boat. So the guys come on the boat. Get the swordfish next to the boat. It's 110 pounds, 120 pounder. Beautiful. Watch the guys do their thing. They put a snooter on there. They put a satellite tag in there. Guys get off the boat, go fishing. They hook one like 30 minutes later, and they catch a 30, 40 pounder. 2 in one day. 120 days goes by, and the guy calls me and says, well, we got the information, and we send it to you. Where were the fish? Here, right here?
Yeah, same spot. Yeah.
Same spot? That's your guess, right?
No, different direction.
Well, it's the migratory cycle, right? So they're all migrating to the same spot. One was off the Caymans, one was off of South Carolina. Wow. Within an hour. So what do we really know? Nothing. Interesting. Here's the interesting thing. I said, Justin's the guy who does the tags. I said, Justin, I had to ask you, send me the information on the tags. Sends me the information. They all went south except one. When did you tag them? Tagged them all in the winter. Oh, so they all pretty much went south in the winter, right? Because I had to work during the summer. I couldn't do any. It's summertime now. We need to put tags out because I'll guarantee you they're going north. So 2 days ago, my buddy catches one here off of Hillsborough Inlet. Calls me up, he says, man, I caught a tagged fish today. Not a satellite tag, a paper tag, but it looks awful new. Bouncer released one 3 days ago. Well, he let him go, but this guy took it. So that fish kind of made its way north, okay? Here, a couple other stories just to get you in tune with the swordfish and the craziness of it, right? The same day, I satellite tagged a fish. We caught 4. The 4th one was a big one. Fish comes up, we harpoon him. He says, I got him. I was fishing with Brandon Muller from the Keys. He was up on the boat. He threw it way down, he harpooned him, pulled out 800 feet of rope. Back then I had an 80 with a ball on it, goes out, pulls the ball out, ball goes down to 1,000 feet for 45 minutes. How big was this thing? How freaking big. Pretty big, I get. I said, yeah. So 45 minutes, all of a sudden the ball pops up. Go over there, start winding. We get fish is coming. So we're looking down. We're saying, man, he says, I must have really hit him. He's bleeding a lot. Get a couple more pulls. There's a 800-pound mako next to him, right? This is the same day we satellite tagged. We were selling swordfish at the time. It was between 2008 and a half and 2010 and a half when I was going broke. I wanted a swordfish. Get the swordfish in the boat. I don't care about a mako. Pull on it, we get the sword up. Here comes the mako. Throw the sword in the boat, we're not even paying attention. Sword, mako swimming around. My daughter had basketball practice. This guy's wanted to kill the mako. I said, we're done, dude. You can take all the pictures you want. We're out of here. So the shark swam around the boat, giant. We got pictures of it. Well, very cool. So I'm sitting there, and I said, all right, let's wrap it up here. We turned the boat west, and I put both in gear, and we're heading. We're spraying the boat down, and everything's going out of the boat. And we go 0.2 of a mile. And I'm just about to hit the throttles, and I make sure everything's good, and I look back, and the mako's on the scupper, swimming on the scupper with his nose on the boat. Holy crap, look at this. These guys start throwing pitch baits on the rods and stuff. I'm like, dude, right? I go, so the shark would come up on this scupper, he'd fade off, you wouldn't see him, all of a sudden he's on this scupper, he goes back and forth, and we're just watching this. It was amazing. If you go on the website, you can see the pictures of the shark, and I mean, his dorsal's here and his tail's back there, and he's swimming 10 knots. Disappears. A couple seconds go by, here he comes. He swims up at about 40 miles an hour and eats the right motor, lower unit. Shuts it off, starts shaking the thing, right? Shaking the boat. I'm freaked. Put the boat in neutral, start it up, it starts. I go to punch it, here he comes again, he rams both motors. Never saw him again. We're running in. I look back, I said, damn, that was a nice fish we caught. I look back, it has a tag in it. I'm like, Hey, we tagged a fish, a satellite tag, we dealt with the mako net, we got 4 swords, and the one we just killed is 350 pounds, it has a tag in it. So Skip's out there still, and I said, Skip, the one I got has a tag in it. Well, give me the number, pull it out and give me the number. So he runs the number, he runs the number, calls me back. It was caught 5 years ago today off a Stewart, and it was 50 pounds. 5 years, okay, so it's 350, okay? So off a Stewart. Now, everyone goes, God, he didn't go very far, right? He didn't go very far. Yeah, he went to the Flemish Cap and back 5 times. But we don't know that, so that's why satellite tagging for me is so crucial, to be able to truly get an understanding of what this fish is doing. Where are they going? What is it about them, you know?
He's eating good.
Yeah, he's eating good, right? So when we distill all this information down and you look at it and you come up with, yeah, I know a couple things about swordfish and catching them. We don't know anything about swordfish. That's the beauty of this. We have so much to learn about it. I was also looking through the satellite tag. It tells you based on temperature where the fish is in the water column. All 8 fish, get this now, this is crazy. All 8 fish that had a satellite tag in them, in a 120-day period, averaged 5 daytime surfacing. They came to the surface in the day. All of them. Who's seen a swordfish here? Right, too warm, right? They're not there. Up north you would see that. California, they see that. I've been out there, we've seen them in California. Here, even in the tropical water, they came up to bask, they call it. So there's so much to it that is so cool. Did you see my email today, Richard, about the skin?
Yeah.
You get a fish on the boat, and you look at it, and you're like, that is like a dinosaur, man. Look at that fish. You look at its eye, and you start to really look at it. And I sent out an email today to the crew members about 6-pack abs for swords. There's lines, corduroy it's called. It's called corduroy skin. They have lines in it. So usually after 100 pounds, if you catch a migrating fish, he's got these abs, but they're straight lines, look just like corduroy pants. You still wear those, by the way. So I took a picture. You've got a juvenile fish that's got no lines, really smooth. You've got the transition of a fish that's starting to migrate, that's got little lines, and then your big ones got those 6-pack abs. So when you see travelers here, the anatomy of the fish is different, very different. So another crazy thing, and think about this one, there's a buoy fishery. Guys, commercial fish out here, they don't longline fish, yet they're trying, and we're trying to make that go away. But there's a clean buoy fishery. You take a bait, you put it out 200-300 feet, you put a buoy on it, a light, you catch each one by hand. So nighttime sword fishing, even for all of the years that we did nighttime sword fishing, the average size of the fish is so much smaller than a daytime fish. So for 16 years, the biggest fish I ever caught at night on a rod was 375. 16 years. We've been fishing for 10. We've caught 6 or 7 or 8 over 500. What does that tell you about the fish? Are those big ones, do they not come up? And so I said to him, even about the satellite tag, there was a couple satellite tags. He goes, they kind of, even the bigger fish that were tagged came up. Okay, but maybe big fish don't feed in the top 300, or the salinity level is different, or the temperature is 1/4 of a degree off. So big fish up on top of 300 feet at night, big fish don't feed. They might be there, but they don't feed. And this goes back to a crazy story too. 2 longline guys setting back in the day. And remember, when I say longline guys, you got to remember, these guys are friends. These guys that's how they make their living. They're commercial guys. And they're great guys, and they're willing to share information. But 2 guys go out. Bobby Kane goes out, sets 30, 40 miles of gear. Ali Mercier goes, sets 35 miles, 30, whatever, gear. And they're 2 miles, 3 miles apart. They set all that gear. One guy puts on light sticks, the other guy puts on strobe. I can't remember exactly what it was. This guy caught 6,000 pounds. This guy had to let a couple rats go. Caught nothing. Same. Is there something that a fish that you can put on a line to have them feed or not feed? Or is it the quarter of a degree that this gear is in and this gear is not? Was it the light? Was it the temperature? All of those factors factor in taking in information to make you better. Guys, I don't care if you're trying to catch a wahoo high speeding. I don't care if it's a kingfish on planers. It doesn't matter what it is. Mutton fishing. Mutton snappers out here right now. Solid. I fished with a guy on my boat. I have never met a guy that fishes as well as the guy I fish with now. His name is John Bassett. His son is John Bassett. That's what they do. These guys are real deal fishing guys, connected. You know, some people, yeah, that's a good fisherman. Or this guy's a great guy, but he has no business fishing. These guys, they're on a different planet. We had to do a mutton video, and we're at a spot. He says, here's the spot on the chart. Shows me. And I'm watching. I'm standing back. Jeff's on the boat. We're watching. Puts 2 baits out. Looks up. Says, 10 o'clock. We're fishing in 120. He's looking at the sun. Okay, well, the boat's going to reflect off the sand here, so we're going to put 2 baits out. We're going to put 2 bonita slabs out. We're going to fish 30-foot leaders, 60-foot leaders, based on the tide, whatever he was doing. They take the bait, they throw it as far as they can, then they take the lead and they throw it in the opposite direction. So, and let's say we have a tide going this way. Then they take the other one and they get it away from the boat and the shadow of the boat, right? I'm thinking, does that really matter at 120 feet? I don't know. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm watching. Rod bends over. A couple seconds later, another rod bends over, right? They catch 2 nice muttons. Awesome. All right, let's do it, John. John's saying to the son, let's go. So he gets 1 bait out. They're getting ready. Fires the bait out. John's kind of fumbling with the other bait, like thinning it down, trying to make it right so it swims with the circle hook right at the tip of a slab. And they're dirt. Come on, John. And we're sitting there like, not saying anything. Dude, what is wrong with you? Finally, he's like, all right. Throws the bait out, right? I said, John, what was the big deal there, dude? I mean, why are you getting so excited? This is a 4-minute spot, okay? Okay. What does that mean? Well, the size of this structure that we're fishing is a wreck. And the muttons swim around this wreck. So when you set up where we set up, you got 4 minutes for them to get back to this spot. Every 4 minutes, the 2 rods would bend over. Talk about figuring something out. That's on a different planet. Are there guys like that figure that stuff out? I got to tell you, all of that information and all of that is real stuff. The Merritts, Merritt boats. Alan Merritt taking a coffee can, heating it with a lighter, taking his 12-pound fluoro and running, or a regular line, running it through it so it lays exactly straight. There's no coil. Best yellowtail fisherman of all time. Who's lighting Folgers cans, putting mono through it? Who's doing that? That's the level, though. See, that's the beauty for me. When I get on your boat, like, I want to see. You see that thing I wrote the other day about the guy? You get on my boat, right? I can't help but look at you. Look what you're wearing. Like, oh, this guy's wearing, but he's got a cell phone and he's got this pair of pliers with this carabiner clip. And I just painted all grip my boat. And he's gonna stand next to my gunnel and he's gonna leave my boat and I'm gonna have to deal with his scratches. Okay, when he leaves, where the heck these scratches come from? I'm looking at everything about you. I'm taking in everything about everything in my experience on the water. Guys and girls who want to take it to the next level, you want to take it to the next level, look at everything. There's a system, and we talk about it, there is a system of fishing, there's a system of entertainment, are you failing? Are you a great captain, but you're terrible and the kids you take are never going fishing again because basically you're an a-hole. Because you care about the fish more than you care about, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I didn't realize. All right, scrap that. If these guys right here, I don't know about the Giants jersey, okay? We're Dolphin fans. I'm a Dolphin fan. Okay, let's not go there. You guys come on my boat today. Guys, this is something where, and we'll talk about swordfish, I'll get to it. How long do I have?
Gotta get to it.
Okay.
Get to that stuff that's on the table.
Okay, last thing I'm gonna say, guys, on that, with these guys on the boat, guys, you are all in center consoles, you're taking people fishing. You have the ability to get them to fish for the rest of their life or to go play golf or something else. Don't be consumed with what you're doing in your plan the night before. I got these two guys on the boat. We're going to the bait hole. We're going to bend the rod. I'm not staring at a rod tip with these guys for 8 hours. Now, these guys might be able to do that. But again, remember who you have on your boat, okay? You have that ability to really further fishing, and it's huge. Okay.
Take us fishing, RJ.
All right.
Show us what you do.
Okay.
Now's the time.
Okay, we're going fishing. I'm going to run through it. You ready? You ready? All right, let's do it. Guys, going out here, you're going fishing. You're going to fish between 1,500 feet and 1,750 feet. Those are your numbers, 1,500 to 1,750. In the morning, you're going to fish in 1,500. That's where the fish are in the morning, generally if you got structure and lumps. If you have a hole, okay, and we're going out Palm Beach Inlet right now. I'm going to a crater. In the morning, I'm going to fish that side of the hole, the east side of the hole. You know why? Because the swordfish stage up on that side with the sun coming up. Because believe it or not, there's something to it. We caught 23 in a day in the booby trap. We were on a crater. We went to the east side. Sun comes up. We worked that side. Middle of the day, they come to the middle of the hole. End of the day, west side. Okay. Out here, based on what you have, shallow in the morning, deeper in the mud in the day. That's where they go. Satellite tags will tell you they go down into the mud in the day. The moon we talked about. The rigs, electric reel, hand cranking. Guys, hand cranking sword's going to be done? 100%. Not even a question. We didn't think so. This has got 30 pound, this has got 40 pound. It's got a Talica, this is the reel we use, it's adjustable. Can I drop to the bottom? Here's what's happened, okay? Understand it. The Gulf Stream is 300 to 500 feet thick. Underneath that, doesn't move very fast at all. If you cut through the Gulf Stream, you're through it. I can have less out on this rod than I have out on this rod. I'm through it. I'm through and because the braid is so thin, it's cut it. So really, I take a piece of rebar like this, I hang it on my bait, on my hook, I put it over, I have a wind-on leader. The leader on this rod's 150 feet. I let it down to a mark with a wax loop. I put a 3 to 4 pound ball on it, lead. Put it in free spool, drop it. Hits the bottom, the rebar comes off. I'm fishing 3 or 4 pound lead, and I'm not losing any line. Now I can hand crank. I don't have to push the button. It's amazing. It's amazing. There's way too much tide for that. You're going to break fish off with 40. You know what 40 breaks at? 60. You ain't breaking that. If I put 60 pounds, something else is breaking. If your connections are right, all day long. We've caught 12 fish in the last 6 weeks on this rod. Hand cranking. It's changed the game. How do I feel really about it? I learned with this. I learned with this. We had to learn with this. But this is what we need to go to. We go through a drop. We don't get a bite. Okay, wind it up. This goes right on the reel, sits on the side of the reel. I wind it all the way to the surface. It's as fast as this. This is the only drill to do it with right now. Unless you have a big boat and 110, this is the drill. You can come up and look at it. This is the mechanism. They make a reel cranking and they make this. All reels. Can you do it on a 50? 100%. It's awesome. Game changer. Guys want a hand crank. They don't want to push the button. You don't have to. It's simple fishing. We're going into fishing 2 rods for swordfish. If you've bought an outfit, are you fishing 2 rods?
Yes.
Okay. Guys, daytime sword fishing? Jacob, guys in here that are really good sword fishermen, I'm going to fish one 300 feet off and I'm going to fish one 100 feet off. My bottom rod is like, that's the number, 100 feet. But I put out a buoy at 300 feet, I catch nothing on my bottom rod and everything's on 300. There's days you're not getting bit on the bottom rod. Transitioning into another rod. It's not difficult. It's on a buoy. Drive it out. I drive to the north, I let a buoy out, or I drive to the south, I let the line out real fast all the way to the pre-done marks. I have marks on the spool right here. Inside here, it says 14, 16, 1800 feet. There's a wind-on leader inside this that we put on. It's got a piece of mono with a wax loop. Current's strong, let it out to 1800 feet. I put the bait in the water, he drives 10 knots, we let it out, 1800 feet. I put the buoy on, we drive away. The buoy's out. We have a guy on the boat, works the bottom rod and works that rod. Can you put your bottom rod down, have this one on the same side as your other rod, let it out behind you. Go slow so you don't tangle. You're fishing 2 rods. You're going to spend that kind of money, effort, energy to go, fish 2 rods. Because if they're biting to 300, you ain't getting bit on the bottom rod. Follow me? Buoy, buoy spool. Got to have the buoy spool.
You say 300 feet in daytime?
300 feet what?
How far down do you go?
I'm going to the bottom. I'm going 300 foot off the bottom with my buoy and 100 feet off with my bottom, my other rod. I want them in 2 different areas. Cover some questions. When fishing tip and jug rods, 2 rods, his handwriting is worse than mine. Let me see what we got here. When fishing tip and jug rods together, can you discuss what you would do one or the other to get bit? Couple things. Great question. What do we do with the rods to get a bite? Let's say we go out fishing tomorrow, it's flat calm. I want to get a bite. Nobody's really getting a bite. Don't put the bottom rod down, wind it up 100 and sit. Every 3 to 4 minutes is when you redrop. 3 to 4 minutes is a redrop. On the buoy, wind it to you, let it back out. Wind 100 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards, 50. Always transitioning. Don't just sit down and watch the rod. So it's 3 minutes. I go 3 minutes on my tip rod. Always checking the bottom. Always trying to understand where my bait is. Crucial. Where is my bait? If the boat's on top of the building here, and the machine is reading this spot, and it goes from 1700 to 1800 right here, and that's what you're reading up there, my bait is 5 minutes from this spot. You want to get good at daytime sword fishing? Figure that out. 3.2 knots, 12 pounds of lead, 4.5 to 5 minutes with 2,400 feet of line out. That's when your bait will experience what is under you. Most people think what they're reading is what their bait is, but your bait's really way out in front of you. Best 2 months for fishing. Great question. There are no 2 best months. They're all good. The cycle of things, we don't know enough about it yet. We've caught big fish in every month. Best electric reel you recommend? LP or hooker? They're all good. Really, that's what I grew up on. That's what I use. What I will tell you this, on the buoy rod, if you're gonna fish 2 and you're fishing center console, fish one with a handle that you can take the motor off or take the plug off. We fish a Daiwa, we fish a hooker. If I hook a fish on my bottom rod, okay, most people would think take that one in. Leave that one out and have somebody walk that around the boat while we deal with the bottom rod, because if this one's getting bit, that one's getting ready to get bit. Keep the rods out. Always fish with and if you have an LP, it's hard to walk that around the boat. So if this is your main rod, you already have one, consider getting a Daiwa, hooker, dolphin, something that you can hand crank. What is the reason now that day swords are better than nighttime? Because everybody's fishing for them. Pretty much. I mean, guys at night are catching fish. It's that many people. Nights for sleeping. How many harpoons? 2, minimum 3. We've had one fish take 2 harpoons 1,000 feet for 45 minutes. 1 harpoon. The other side, if you want to take a lot of fish, and this time of the year, when the one fish comes up and there's 3 or 4 with it, and you only have 1, you only have 1. A couple harpoons, 2 harpoons. With this, real quick on this, let's say we got a fish on. Important things for you to remember. We're fighting a swordfish on the rod. We're fighting with light drag. Most guys will reset this reel at 0 at the lead, right? Who does that? No one does that? So where's your 0? At the bait. Always 0 the reel out at the bait. Take the lead off, put the reel on low, back the drag off. Now 2 of you can harpoon the fish. Don't make somebody stand next to the reel. Have the ability to be able to come off the reel. Hugely important. What is the best bait to use? I'm a bonita guy, like the taco. It's a fold-over bait, it swims awesome. That's number 1. Number 2 would be a belly. Number 3 would be a dolphin, fold-over taco. Number 4 would be now I'm gonna go back and go to the ladyfish. This time of the year when they're eating fish baits in the winter, you wanna use a fish bait. Ladyfish right now are crushing. Some guys really stick with snakeheads. Squid I would suggest against. Not that this doesn't work, but it's so deep, it takes so much time that if he swats it 3 times, it's done. The bait's done. So not too much squid. Can you use large buoys at night with glow sticks? Yes. This is a buoy for daytime. So, and if I'm missing something there, that is basically goes on. Guys, when you see this, you obviously see it with the lead going down, 6, 8, 10, or 12 pounds. It's going to hold it like that. When you have a fish, 90% of the time you're going to look at it, it's like this. Don't be so quick to wind it in and wind your bottom rod on. If this has a fish on it and it's laying like this, leave it. Here's why. Let them swim that 10, 8-pound lead around for 45 minutes. Makes it a lot easier, and it works great if you want it. It really does. Don't get over antsy, because if you got bit here on the buoy, that's 100 yards from you, there's fish here. There's fish. Questions specifically on sword fishing. We covered everything. Go ahead.
You're talking about watching the tip for the bite.
Yep.
Can you explain that to us all?
Okay, great question. I'm watching the tip for a bite. Number 1 ask questions. What do you do when you get a bite? Okay? Am I looking at the tip and I looked at it and I go, that's a swordfish bite, there he is. Or, did you see that? That's the 2 things. Either you know it's a bite or you go, you see that? If you go, did you see that? Always come up 50 feet. You will get a second bite, usually. If you get a second bite, will be a little more aggressive than the first. Drop it 50 feet. Stop it. Stop the reel. When you stop the reel, don't stop driving. Okay? We did have the board for something. Guys, can you see this? Boat's here. This is north. This is south. Your line goes down. The Gulf Stream's this thick. Once it gets under here, it goes way out to the south of you. So you're fishing. Here's your lead. Okay? Swordfish swats the bait. You bring this lead up 50 feet, which makes the angle of the bait go underneath you, underneath the lead. He hits it again. You drop it 50 feet. Here's your lead. Now you've got that. That's a half a mile from you. I'm actually manipulating the fish, but a half mile from me? It is no different than pitch baiting a blue marlin right here. If we're going that way, he's on the teaser, wind the teaser out. If I stand there like this, with the rod, bait, pointed at the fish, You're not catching the fish. Rod tip it. Now, even if you rod tip him, which is something, go like this. As soon as he comes, go like that. He turns, he's gone. It's no different than what you're doing with 2,300 feet of line out. You're creating this much drop back for that bait and loop to stop. One trick we do use. Okay, let's say we're driving into the current and we're going 2 knots this way, but we have 3.8 knots of tide. I'm going that way now. Pay attention. When I get bit and I pull this off, okay, I come up, he drills me again. I go down 50, I close this to 1 knot or a half a knot by driving. Now the line's behind you, okay? So now this line is coming off the rod into the current. Here's what's happening. When you locked it up after the 50 feet right here, you had the line behind you, and this created a sea anchor against this line. So you've stopped this lead from any movement. Follow it? Use the tide that's rushing by you to let some line out. Now when you lock it up, the rod kind of does this, and it slowly sits there because you got it all in the Gulf Stream. So as it comes back, the lead's just sitting. It's suspended. You got that little bit? Now watch, all you're doing is this. And it starts wobbling. Hit the button. Back the boat up. Got to back the boat up to the north. When it starts to wobble, he's got it. Back the boat up. Drive the hook at 25 pounds. That's the art of hooking him. That's really it. If he taps you again, keeps tapping you. Remember we talked about the cycle of feeding or not feeding? Sometimes they're not eating it, not committing, they're fouled up. That's real stuff. But when they're eating, usually after the second bite, you drop it, back up, speed up, lock the rod up, rod wobbles, you come tight, done deal. Down the hatch, in the corner, happening. That's the technique. You have to take the boat ahead. Hooking the fish with a line angle like that, no good. Don't have the line pointed to the south while you're trying to hook them. 2 things happen. You start to drive the hook. You can't sometimes tell if it's him, are we fighting the lead, are we hooking? When you hook the fish from back here, you're going to know right away whether it's him or not. You know right away whether, and if that rod wobbles, wind. Keep winding. If he's not there, you're gonna wind 50 feet, you're gonna stop. He's gonna do it again. Repeat the process. Repeat the process. That is the biggest thing with sword fishing in the day, is that maneuver right there. What do I do when I get a bite? What do I do? Taps it. Was that a bite? Now I knew it was a sword bite. Now I'm looking at it and I see, boom. I'm going down. It's a sword. Going down, do the process. That's it. Some guys, I'm going to go to the bottom, feed them. Some guys will, when they get the bite, will take their lead, drop it all the way to the bottom and stop the momentum of the bait, really, by putting the lead in the sand. And now the bait's sinking. Here's the problem with that. Can you catch them doing that? Yes. Problem is, if you have a 2.5 knot tide or less, that fish is all fetched up in the bait. And when you put the lead on the bottom and you're in free spool, you can't tell really if the fish, he has 150 feet from the lead to the bait. So if he swims back towards the main line, your rod doesn't do anything. So now you've got to wind it up 150 feet plus 150 feet before the rod bends over. Most of the time he's already had it. If he's had it and ate it, now you wound it up 150 feet, which most people don't wind up that much, and you sit there. Then all of a sudden, a little while later, the rod starts loading and he comes off. Well, he was swimming around for 4 or 5 minutes towards the lead. Unless you get the perfect scenario, this is the way to hook them. Going to the bottom, foul hook them. Lines around them. 65% of the fish are hooked outside in. 65, not here. It's here. What does that mean? Why would the fish be hooked outside the face in? Swordfish has got two eyes. They're separated about this far apart. For him to look at a bait, he's got to go like that. Then he wants to really look at it again. He goes like that. Now he missed it. He missed the bait. He wanted to look at it, so it went through his mouth. So the line's through his mouth. Why do we put 25 on him? Because if the bait's over here on his back and the line's through his mouth, and I drive the hook, I need it to come from there to here. Heat, drag. That's, look at the fish you're catching. Unless you get lucky and you can catch them in the mouth, which we do, based on that technique, outside in, most of the time. If you're sitting and the rod bends over, you're sitting there watching the rod and all of a sudden it jacks over, you're catching that fish 20% of the time. If you can't do that, good luck pot. Send it, charters, rod jacks over and starts pulling drag. We're like, oh my gosh. People are like, holy crap, we're hooked up. What's wrong with you guys? We're like, give it a couple seconds. He's off. It's the nature of the way they feed. You don't want the rod. That's why you can't miss the first bite. Last thing, guys. Last thing I want to go ahead.
How much drag after you hook the fish? 6,
And
7,
the least amount of that I can gain line,
Okay.
6 to 11. If you're fishing a 12-pound lead, but the fish is kind of swimming it up seesaw, the least amount to gain line. That's why this is nice. I can put it on low. I can put an angler on it. Watch the rod tip. Guys, again, it's one of those things. You've done what you can do. You hooked a fish. If he's on there, he's on there. It's a 10-0, 7691S. It's somewhere. It's somewhere. Your first fish, right here. Worst place to fight him. Right here, on top of the dorsal end of peck. Question. Best hook, 7691 Southern Tuna style hook is what we use. That's how we go through 10,000 of them a year. That's the hook. Question. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a bit about the lead transfer, the process of it?
Guys, great question. Lead transfer. You got a fish on. Here comes the lead. Everybody says this. It's great. Took the lead off and we lost them because the driver didn't stay tight to the fish. You had 25 pounds of drag, it don't matter. Watch the film, the daytime swordfish film. I don't want any, there's 1 pound of drag on my reel. I just turn the thing on. I'm like this, finger tipping them in. There's no, oh, the lead comes off, the fish is over there and the line's slack. Perfect. Perfect. Figure out where it's sail fishing at that point. Guys, another thing. You're fighting a fish here. South, north. Always try to take the fish on the north side of you. Fish wants to swim into the current. If your fish is over here, anybody shark fish, hammerhead fish in here, you get a shark this side of you, you get a swordfish into the tide, you're in for a long day. Get them up here, get the lead off, drive the boat ahead so you take it off and the line's to the north. When the line's to the north slack, now you go like this. Okay, which way is he going? Line angling. Now we're driving, reels on, 2 harpoons. Keep coming, keep coming. He's going to swim right to you. All the biggest fish we ever took, that's swim right to the boat. Here he comes, 650. All right, 2 of them. That's how you sail fishing. Take the lead off. Don't worry about the slack. Don't worry. If you really did what 25 to 30 pounds, you've done what you can do. Good question.
Is there times you don't leave dock about high rock pressure or west winds?
Great question. Best wind to swordfish? Southwest. Southwest wind. Reason is, something's front's getting ready to happen. Southwest is awful inshore, it's great offshore. Love southeast, south. North can be good, if it's slow, northeast wind can be good, but usually if that front has passed, it's going to take them a day to come back, to start eating again. After that barometer spike I talked about when everybody's hooked up, when that's over, go home. Ain't happening. Stare at the rod all day. You're not going to catch anything.
Right before it spikes?
Right before it spikes is the best. Don't be running back. Make sure your baits are near the bottom, around the bottom when that thing's getting ready to come, because that rod's getting ready to bend. Question?
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah.
When you hand crank them,
Yep.
do they swim up with lead when you're only 3 pounds on?
Beauty, the beauty. Okay. So you got 3-4 pounds on this hand crank. Everyone said, I'm not fishing 10 or 12, 3 or 4. You get the bite, you're driving the hook. With that, I'm fishing a 9.0 7691 on my baits, same baits. Drive the hook, drive to the fish. Drive, be aggressive. Drive, stop. Drive so the line, even after you hooked them, kind of angles back towards the north. Now, watch the rod. Rod will go like this. All right, all the way. The fish is coming up. Make the lead drop. Make the lead drop. Don't pull from here. You pull from here, he's going that way. That lead pulls from here, he's coming. Let him do it. Put the reel in free spool. Try that. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Put the reel in free spool and watch what happens. It'll go down, then all of a sudden it'll be completely slack, and you're doing this. Now, what am I thinking about? Crisscrossing my line, so when he comes tight, it's not digging into itself. It's all about crisscrossing the line so that braid doesn't. All of that stuff, as we're doing that, we're talking about that crisscross. All right, we're slack. Good. Keep going. All the way to the lead. Here he is on top. Get the lead off, keep going. That's it. Sail fishing, manipulation of the fish, drag, all of those things. If you're missing one thing, if you're missing one ingredient, it ain't happening. Can you get lucky? 100%. Can you every day? No. It's the best fishery. You have the disease or you don't. I have it. I have it serious. I can't walk outside in the morning without looking at the ripples on the canal, the trees, and if I got to work, I'm kind of miserable. I just want to be out there, you know. I really do. We're blessed to do so many cool things. You guys, I want to thank these guys for having me. Guys, we have a crew platform. The last thing I will say. The crew platform is the thing on my website. Are there crew members in here? Is there anybody that's on the crew? Okay. It's $30 a month. It's the cost of one lead. What you're going to get, Richard, how is it? Good. There's a lot there. A lot of great videos. A lot of great videos. 80 films. There's 15 on sword fishing. Hand cranking, buoy, how to put a buoy out, how to hook a swordfish, what a daytime spot looks like. All that stuff is there. Bait rigging. We go through everything. rjboylestudio.com. Yeah, and there's a crew platform. Try it for a month. Nobody gets off. I'm going to do my job to make sure I give you a lot of cool stuff and a lot of it. So again, we got a film coming out. We got 4 films. We're rigging an eel next week. You're going to see how to rig an eel. We're doing several different ones on yellowfin tunas. Again, blue marlin fishing. We're going to dredge fishing. All of that stuff is there. Some of it's up to 3-hour films. We're making shorter ones now, but it's really technical stuff. You guys want to learn. You have the passion for it. Man, I got to tell you, guys have taught me a lot. I'm good at sword fishing. These other guys, the Russell Kleppingers, the Bouncer Smiths, the Nicholas Bovell, a wireman who worked on the Big O for years, is now on the Max Bet. You know, all the different fisheries. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all there. And and then once a month, everybody waits for the one day a month where we'll give 20 or 25% off. And it's a crew sale. So we do a lot of fun stuff. We do a contest. We do a lot of cool things. Like, how many hulls are in this chum bag? The closest one wins a dredge. So we do some creative things. Yes?
I just want to say, as an independent party who signed up for the crew, it was like the best $30 I've ever spent. It was the difference between me catching a couple swordfish. Like, I recommend everybody does it.
I gave him 100 out there. Thank you, you guys. I appreciate it. I'm here. I'll answer your questions.